The drilling rig shook again, and this time Hannah felt it in her bones. She pressed her hand against the reinforced window of the observation deck and watched the dust rise from the gray surface below. The moon wasn't supposed to move like this. Dead rocks didn't tremble. "Another one," said Tay, looking up from his monitor. His face was pale in the blue light of the screens. "That's the fifth quake in 2 hours." Hannah checked her readings again. The numbers didn't make sense. The seismic activity was coming from deep inside the moon, but their scans showed nothing down there. Just solid rock all the way through. Except now the rock was shaking like something alive. "Stop the drilling," she said. The foreman, a thick-necked man named Gunho, shook his head. "We're 3 days behind schedule already. The company wants. I don't care what the company wants." Hannah's voice was sharp. "Stop it now." Gunho glared at her but hit the come button. All teams halt operations. The drilling stopped. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the moon shook so hard that Hannah fell against the wall. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed across every panel. What the hell was that? Gunho shouted. Hannah pulled herself back to her station. Her screen showed something impossible. A crack had appeared on the surface, running for almost 50 kilometers. And from that crack, her sensors were picking up readings she'd never seen before. Energy signatures that didn't match anything in the database. "Get everyone off the surface," she said. "Right now." This time, Gunho didn't argue. The evacuation took 30 minutes. 30 minutes of the moon shaking and groaning like a wounded animal. When the last crew shuttle docked with the main ship, Hannah finally let herself breathe. But the relief didn't last long. "Dr. Ko, you need to see this." Tay had been running deep scans. His hands were shaking as he pulled up the results. The image on the screen made Hannah's stomach drop. The moon wasn't a moon at all. Under all that rock and dust was something else. Something built. Metal structures, enormous and ancient, wrapped in layers of stone that had formed over millions of years. "It's artificial," Tay whispered. "The whole thing. Someone built this." "Not just someone," said Bora, the ship's physicist. She had been quiet until now, staring at her own screens. "Look at the energy patterns. Whatever this is, it's old. Billions of years old. And it's waking up." Hannah felt cold. "Waking up? What do you mean waking up?" Bora pointed at the readings. "There's a power source inside. It was dormant, maybe for eons. But when we started drilling, we triggered something. Now it's activating." The ship lurched. Outside the window, the moon was changing. The cracks were spreading, and through them, Hannah could see light. Not the light of stars or engines. Something else. Something that hurt to look at. "We need to leave," Gunho said. "Right now. Wait." Hannah moved closer to the window. The light was getting brighter, and with it came a feeling. Not sound, not movement, but something that pressed against her mind. Like a voice, but not words. More like an idea, vast and terrible, trying to force its way into her thoughts. She gasped and stepped back. Her nose was bleeding. "Hannah!" Tay grabbed her arm. "Are you okay?" "Get us out of here," she managed to say. The ship's engines fired. They pulled away from the moon, accelerating hard. But as they fled, Hannah watched the thing below continue to wake. The rock shell was breaking apart, falling away in huge pieces. Beneath it, she could see the structure. It was beautiful and horrifying at the same time. Curves and angles that shouldn't exist, made from metal that seemed to swallow light. And then it breathed. Hannah didn't know how else to describe it. The structure pulsed, and when it did, something happened to the air. Even in the ship, sealed away from space, she could taste it. Metal and rust and something older than stars. The taste of endings. Oh God, Bora whispered. The readings. The energy output. It's off the scale. A message came through on the emergency channel. It was from the Galactic Council, the group that governed all the known species in the galaxy. The voice belonged to Admiral Veskith, one of the Pale Throne people. They were an old race, ancient compared to humans. All vessels in the Korvath Expanse evacuate immediately. This is a council emergency order. Repeat, evacuate immediately. Gunho opened a channel. This is the mining ship Bright Future. What's happening? There was a pause. When Veskith spoke again, his voice sounded wrong, afraid. You have awakened something that should have stayed buried. Leave now or die. The channel cut off. What could scare them? Tay asked. The Pale Throne have been around for millions of years. What could they be afraid of? Hannah didn't have an answer, but she knew they were in serious trouble. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the moon behind. But even as they traveled through the strange space between stars, Hannah could feel it. That presence. That vast, ancient thing they had awakened. It was aware of them now. Aware of everything. Reports started coming in from other systems. On 3 different planets, mountains were moving. Not erupting or shaking. Moving. Sliding across the surface like they were being pushed by invisible hands. On a station near the Vega system, everyone reported tasting metal in the air. Ships across 24 sectors were detecting the same energy signature that Hannah had found. Whatever they had released, it was spreading. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Every species sent representatives. Hannah watched the broadcast with the rest of her crew. She saw beings from races she'd never encountered before. Some had been traveling the stars when humans were still living in caves. They all looked terrified. Admiral Veskith stood before the council. The humans have broken the seal on KX-779. The Epic Eater is free. The name sent a wave of panic through the chamber. Species that Hannah had thought were fearless began to flee. Others collapsed. One delegate, a being made of crystalline structures, simply shattered. What is the Epic Eater? Demanded Captain Dai Shin of the human delegation. He was a military officer, his uniform crisp despite the chaos around him. Veskith turned to look at him. His eyes were like dark pools. It is the end of all things. It existed before our oldest ancestors. It feeds on civilizations when they reach their peak. It devours not just worlds, but time itself. It consumes futures. That's impossible, said Day. Your species is young, Veskith replied. You do not understand what is possible in a universe as old as ours. The Epic Eater was imprisoned by races that no longer exist. They gave everything to lock it away. And now you have set it free. We didn't know, they started. It doesn't matter. Veskith's voice was sharp. Humanity will evacuate all colonies in the affected systems. The elder races will attempt containment. You are too young, too inexperienced to help. You will only die. Day's jaw tightened. Our people are out there. Then they are already lost. Evacuate who you can. Leave the rest to us. The broadcast ended. Hannah sat in silence with her crew. Around them, the ship hummed as it carried them away from the danger. But Hannah knew running wouldn't save them. Whatever the Epic Eater was, it was awake now. And it was hungry. She thought about Day's face in that broadcast. The anger there. The refusal to accept what he was being told. That was the thing about humans, she realized. They were young, inexperienced, reckless, but they were also stubborn. And sometimes, stubbornness was all you had left. The Council's weapon was beautiful. Hannah watched it on the news feeds from her ship as they fled deeper into safe space. The harmonic nullifier hung in the void like a small moon, covered in symbols from 40 different species. It had taken 3,000 years to build. The Council had created it to fight threats that could destroy galaxies. Now they would use it against the Epoch Eater. "Will it work?" asked Tay. He sat next to Hannah in the observation room, watching the same feeds. "They seem to think so," Hannah said. But she didn't sound convinced. The weapon activated. Hannah saw it even from light years away. A beam of pure white light, so bright it hurt to watch even through screens. The light touched the Epoch Eater's prison, the structure they had accidentally opened. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the weapon exploded. Not broke. Not failed. Exploded. The harmonic nullifier tore itself apart, sending pieces flying in every direction. Ships that had been watching from what they thought was a safe distance were destroyed instantly. And the Epoch Eater grew larger. "No," Bora whispered. She was running calculations on her tablet, her fingers shaking. It absorbed it. It took all that energy and used it to grow stronger. The news feeds erupted into chaos. Reporters from every species were screening questions. Officials were trying to explain what had happened. But nobody had answers. The most powerful weapon in the galaxy had failed. Worse than failed. It had fed the thing they were trying to destroy. Then the Epoch Eater spoke. Hannah felt it first as pressure behind her eyes. Then as an idea that wasn't hers, forcing its way into her mind. She saw things. Terrible things. Not images exactly, but concepts. Feelings. Knowledge she didn't want. She saw the end of the Pale Throne. Their great cities turning to dust. Their children forgetting how to speak. Their sun going cold. She saw it happen not in years or centuries, but in moments. She saw 340 million years of history collapse into nothing. She saw the Vexmar, the crystalline hive mind that controlled 1,000 worlds, shatter into 1 billion screaming pieces. She saw species she didn't even know existed vanish like they had never been born. And through it all, she understood. This was what the Epoch Eater did. It didn't just kill. It showed you the end. It made you see your own extinction. It made you feel it. And then it fed on your despair. Hannah screamed and fell out of her chair. Someone was calling her name, but she couldn't focus. The visions were too strong. She saw Earth's sun expand and swallow the planet. She saw humanity's colonies go dark one by one. She saw the last human die alone in the cold between stars. Hands grabbed her, pulled her up. Tay was there, and Bora, both looking terrified. "Are you okay?" Tay asked. Hannah nodded, even though she wasn't. Her nose was bleeding again, and her head felt like it was splitting open. "Did you see it? Did you see what it showed me?" "We all saw it," Bora said quietly. Everyone within 50 light years saw it. Reports started coming in. Across dozens of systems, people were breaking down. The Pale Throne, who had existed for hundreds of millions of years, were abandoning their ships and colonies. They had seen their end, and they couldn't bear it. The Vexmar had stopped communicating entirely. Their hive mind had fractured. Other species were in similar states. Some were fleeing to the edges of the galaxy. Others were simply giving up. The Epoch Eater had won without firing a single shot. But something strange was happening with the humans. Hannah pulled up the reports from human colonies and ships. People were scared, yes. Terrified, even. But they weren't giving up. They weren't breaking down like the elder races. When the Epoch Eater showed them the end of humanity, something unexpected happened. Humans looked at their extinction and said, "Not today. Why aren't we affected like them?" Tay asked, reading the same reports. Bora had been thinking about this. "We're too young. The Epoch Eater's attack works by showing you the inevitable end of your species. It uses cosmic timescales. But humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. We don't think in millions of years. We can't." To us, the end it's showing feels distant, abstract, not real. So our ignorance is protecting us? Hannah asked. Exactly. The elder races have too much perspective. They understand entropy. They know that eventually everything ends. The Epoch Eater weaponizes that knowledge against them. But we're too stupid to be properly scared. Tay laughed. It was a desperate sound. We're surviving because we're too dumb to know we should be terrified. Basically, Bora said, a message came through on a secure channel. It was from Captain Day. His face appeared on the screen, and he looked angry. This is Captain Day Shin to all human vessels in the region. The Council has ordered us to evacuate. They're retreating to the core systems. They say the fight is over. He paused, and Hana could see the muscles in his jaw working. I'm not retreating. My sister died when the Council abandoned our colony during the Martic crisis. I won't let that happen again. Any ship that wants to stay and fight, join me at coordinates 447 Alpha 9. We're gonna do what we always do. We're gonna find a way. The message ended. Gunho, who had been listening, turned to Hana. He's insane. We're a mining ship. What can we do against something that destroyed the Council's best weapon? Hannah looked at the star charts. The coordinates they had sent were close to the Epoch Eater. Dangerously close. He's right, though, she said. We can't just run. Why not? Gunho demanded. We're not soldiers. We drill rocks. We don't fight ancient cosmic horrors. Maybe that's exactly why we should go, Hana said. She was thinking about what Bora had said, about how their ignorance protected them. The elder races have tried fighting this thing with wisdom and advanced technology. They failed. Maybe it's time to try something different. Like what? Asked Tay. I don't know yet. But I know Day. He won't give up. And if there's even a tiny chance we can help, we have to take it. Bora nodded. I'm in. Tay took a deep breath. Me too. Gunho looked at all of them like they were crazy. You really want to fly toward the thing that's making gods run away? Yes, Hana said simply. Gunho sighed. Fine, but when we die, I'm going to haunt all of you. The mining ship changed course. As they traveled toward Day's coordinates, Hana watched the reports continue to come in. More human ships were joining. Not military vessels. Cargo haulers. Colony transports. Science ships. Even a few passenger liners. They were all heading toward the Epoch Eater. Someone on the communications network started calling them the Stupid Fleet. The name stuck. Hundreds of ships, none built for combat, crewed by people who barely understood what they were fighting, flying towards certain death. When they arrived at the coordinates, Hana was amazed. 217 ships had answered Day's call. She could see them on the scanners, spread out across space. They looked so small, so fragile. Day's ship, the Prometheus Dawn, was at the center. He opened a channel to all of them. I won't lie to you, he said. I don't know if we can win. The elder races couldn't, and they're smarter and more powerful than us. But here's what I do know. We're human. We've been doing impossible things since we learned to walk. We've crossed oceans in wooden boats. We've gone to the moon with computers weaker than your phone. We've cured diseases, ended wars, and built cities in deserts. He paused, and Hana could see the determination in his eyes. We're too stupid to know when we're beaten. And that's our strength. Around the fleet, people cheered. It was a desperate sound. A defiant sound. And somewhere in the dark between stars, the EPO*CX Eater felt them coming and wondered what these small, loud creatures thought they could do. Hana couldn't sleep. While the fleet prepared for whatever came next, she sat in her quarters and stared at data. The ancient prison structure. The energy readings. The way the epic eater had responded to different stimuli. There had to be a pattern. Everything had a pattern. It was 3 in the morning when she found it. Bora, wake up. Hannah hit the come button, not caring about the hour. I need you to check something. Bora appeared on the screen a minute later, her hair a mess. This better be important. Look at the species the epic eater destroyed. The council has records going back millions of years. Every civilization it encountered, it consumed. But look at when it consumed them. Hannah sent over the files. Bora's eyes went wide as she read. They were all at their peak, Bora said slowly. Every single one. They had reached the height of their development. Perfect technology. Perfect society. Perfect everything. Exactly. Exactly. And what happens to things that reach perfection? They stop growing, Bora whispered. They stagnate. Hannah felt excitement building in her chest. The epic eater doesn't destroy civilizations. It destroys stagnation. It's like a forest fire. It burns away the old growth so new things can grow. But that's insane, Bora said. These were living beings. Entire species. You can't just burn them away. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's what it does. And here's the thing. We're not stagnant. We're still learning. Still making mistakes. We're far from perfect. Bora was quiet for a moment. So we might be immune because we're still growing? Maybe. I need to test this. Can you wake up, Tay? I need his help with something. 20 minutes later, the 3 of them were in the ship's lab. Tay had been working on translating the epic eater's communications. The being didn't speak in words. It spoke in pure concepts, ideas that burned themselves into your mind. What am I looking for? Tay asked, pulling up his files. Threats, Hannah said. The council thinks it's threatening us. But what if it's not? What if we're misunderstanding? Tay started going through the translations. Hannah watched over his shoulder. The epic eater's messages were strange. They showed endings, yes, but not in the way a threat would. More like a warning? An invitation? Here, Tay said, pointing at a section. This part. We translated it as you will end, but the concept it's actually sending is more like you are ending, or you choose to end. It's not a threat. It's an observation. What's the difference? Ask Bora. The threat says, I will kill you. This is saying, you are killing yourselves. It's showing each species their own end because that's what they've chosen. By stopping growth. By accepting stagnation. Hannah felt her heart racing. Can you translate more? Find out what it really wants? Tay worked for hours. The others brought him coffee and food, watching as he slowly pieced together the true meaning of the epic eater's messages. When he finally looked up, his face was pale. It's not attacking us, he said. It's offering us a choice. Grow or die. Every species it showed their end to, it was giving them a chance. A chance to see where their current path led and choose differently. But they didn't choose differently, Bora said. They gave up. Because they could see too far ahead. They understood the heat death of the universe. The ultimate entropy. They knew that no matter what they did, everything would end eventually. So why try? Hannah stood up and started pacing. The elder races are too smart. They know too much about how the universe works. They understand that eventually, everything dies. The stars will burn out. Matter will decay. The universe will go cold and dark. That knowledge paralyzes them. But humans don't think like that, Tay said. We know we're going to die. We know Earth will die. We know the sun will eventually burn out. But we still plant trees. We still have children. We still build things that won't be finished in our lifetime. We're too stupid to let cosmic truth stop us. Aura said, and she was smiling now. Hana hit the come button. I need to speak to Captain Day, right now. It took a few minutes to get through. When Day's face appeared on the screen, he looked tired. The fleet had been running drills, preparing for combat. But they all knew their civilian ships wouldn't last long in a real fight. Dr. Ko, what can I do for you? Stop preparing for a fight, Hana said. That's not how we beat this thing. Day raised an eyebrow. Then how do we beat it? We don't. We confuse it. We annoy it. We show it something it's never seen before. Hana explained what they'd discovered. As she talked, she saw understanding dawn on Day's face. So you're saying the Epic Eater expects us to either fight or flee. And both of those responses are based on accepting that it's more powerful than us. Exactly. Every species it's encountered has responded with either dignified acceptance or primal fear. But humans? We respond to impossible situations with stubbornness and bad jokes. Day laughed. It was a real laugh, the first one Hana had heard in days. You want us to annoy a cosmic entity into leaving? Why not? What's the worst that could happen? It could kill us all. It's going to do that anyway if we fight conventionally. At least this way, we die doing what humans do best. Being ridiculous. Day was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Okay, I'm in. What do you need? Access to the fleet's communication systems. And I need you to tell the other captains to trust me. This is going to sound crazy. Everything about this situation is crazy, Day said. Might as well go all the way. An hour later, Hana was broadcasting to the entire fleet. This is Dr. Hana, Ko. I need every ship to download the following files to your communication. Arrays, music, art, literature, history, everything that makes us human. We're going to broadcast it all directly at the Epic Eater. What will that do? Someone asked over the channel. I have no idea, Hana admitted. But here's what I know. The Epic Eater feeds on civilizations that have stopped evolving. It shows them their end, and they accept it. But we don't accept endings. We never have. When we're told something is impossible, we do it anyway. When we're told we're going to die, we write poetry about it. We're chaotic, unpredictable, and we're going to show it that. Another voice came over the channel. It was from a cargo ship called the Evening Star. So, we're going to blast it with our entire cultural history and hope it gets confused? Pretty much, Hana said. I love it, the captain of Evening Star said. We've got 10,000 hours of human music in our database. Where do you want it? Other ships started chiming in. They had movies, books, recordings of human arguments and debates, comedy shows, cooking programs. Someone even had a complete archive of terrible human jokes. Send it all, Hana said. Show it everything. The good, the bad, the embarrassing. Let it see who we really are. While the fleet prepared, Hana worked with Bora on another plan. If they could get close to the prison structure, they might be able to learn something. Not how to repair it. That ship had sailed. But maybe they could understand why it failed. The prison was designed by species that understood cosmic law, Bora said, running simulations. They built it to contain something that followed those laws. Something that could be imprisoned because it accepted the concept of imprisonment. But the Epic Eater doesn't accept anything, Hana said. It's chaos. It's change. You can't trap change. Exactly. Exactly. The prison worked for billions of years because the Epic Eater was dormant. But the moment we woke it up, the prison became meaningless. You can't cage something that refuses to be caged. Hana looked out the window at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, the Epic Eater was waiting. She could feel it. That vast presence, watching them with something that might have been curiosity. Tomorrow we make contact, she said. We show it what humanity is, and we pray that our chaos is enough. Laura smiled grimly. We're gonna fly toward an ancient cosmic entity that destroys civilizations and annoy it with cat videos and bad puns. When you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But so are we. Maybe that's enough. The fleet moved forward in a pattern that made no sense. Ships wove between each other in spirals and loops. They accelerated and decelerated randomly. From the outside, it looked like chaos. That was exactly the point Hannah watched from the bridge of the bright future as they approached the epic eater. The entity had grown since they last saw it. It wasn't just a prison structure anymore. It had spread, becoming a thing of shadow and light that hurt to look at directly. Space itself seemed to bend around it. Beginning broadcast, Tay announced every ship in the fleet started transmitting. Music poured out into the void. Beethoven and rock and roll. Traditional Korean songs and jazz. Pop music and opera and terrible garage bands that someone had recorded in their basement. It all merged into a cacophony that should have been unbearable, but somehow worked. Adding visual data, said Bora. Images followed the sound. Art from every human culture. Cave paintings and modern digital works. The Mona Lisa and graffiti from subway stations. Everything humans had ever created, all broadcast directly at the epic eater. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entity shifted. Hannah felt the pressure against her mind again, but this time it was different. Confused. Like the epic eater was trying to understand what it was experiencing. It's working, Tay said, his voice shaking. Look at the energy patterns. They're fluctuating. The epic eater had consumed 1,000 species. Every one of them had faced their end with either quiet acceptance or screaming terror. This was something new. These small creatures were flying toward it, broadcasting noise and chaos and making no sense at all. One ship, a cargo hauler called Barely Legal, performed a barrel roll for no apparent reason while broadcasting cooking shows. Another ship was transmitting nothing but comedy routines. The captain of Evening Star had decided to blast heavy metal music at maximum volume. Is that helpful? Gunho asked, listening to the screaming guitars. Who knows? Hannah said. But it's definitely human. The fleet split into groups, each taking a different approach pattern. Some ships flew in formation. Others moved alone. There was no coordination, no military precision. Just 217 ships doing whatever their crews thought might work. And the epic eater paused. Hannah could feel it. That vast intelligence, trying to process what it was seeing. Humans knew they were mortal. The entity could sense that. They understood that they would die. But instead of despair, they had created art, music, stories. They looked at their inevitable death and decided to make something beautiful first. It didn't make sense. Nothing in the epic eater's experience had prepared it for this. Commander Ariseo to all ships, a voice crackled over the comm. We're going in closer. Who's with me? The Defiant, a small stealth corvette, broke from the formation and accelerated toward the entity. A dozen other ships followed. They're insane, Gunho muttered. Probably, Hannah agreed. But so are we. She watched as Ari's ship got closer to the epic eater. The space around the entity was wrong. Light bent at impossible angles. Time seemed to slow down and speed up randomly. But the Defiant kept going, broadcasting human history the entire time. Adding more data streams, Bora said. She was sending over everything they had. Scientific papers, philosophy, arguments about the best way to make coffee. Humans discussing whether hot dogs were sandwiches. The complete works of human literature, from ancient poetry to modern science fiction. The epic eater's confusion grew. These beings were contradictory. They knew about entropy, but ignored it. They understood death, but celebrated life anyway. They had discovered the laws of thermodynamics and then decided to see if they could break them. Energy spike, Tay shouted. It's preparing to do something. The metallic taste came back, stronger than before. Rust and endings. The air in the ship became thick with it, even though they were in a sealed environment light years away. Hannah's tongue felt heavy. Her lungs burned. The epic eater was preparing to feed. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Day's voice cut through the chaos. Get ready to, but he didn't finish. Because his ship, the Prometheus Dawn, suddenly broke formation and accelerated straight at the entity. Day, what are you doing? Ari shouted over the comm. What we came here to do, Day said calmly. Someone has to get close enough to deliver the message properly. Hannah understood what he meant. The broadcasts were good, but they were distant, impersonal. The epic eater needed to experience humanity directly. It needed to see what they were, not just what they had created. Captain, don't, Hannah said. But she knew he wouldn't. Listen. Day's ship flew into the heart of the epic eater. The structure around it began to tear at the Prometheus Dawn. Hannah watched in horror as pieces of the ship started to break away. But Day kept broadcasting. Not just data now. Himself. His memories. His life. He showed the entity his childhood. His sister. The day she died when the council abandoned their colony, leaving them to fend for themselves. He showed his anger. His determination. His refusal to let that happen again. He showed the entity what it meant to be human. To know you're small and weak and mortal, and to fight anyway. To look at the impossible and say, I don't care. The universe might be dying, Day said, his voice crackling with static as his ship disintegrated around him. But we're not dead yet. The Prometheus Dawn exploded. The flash was so bright that Hannah had to look away. When she looked back, there was nothing left. Just debris and that terrible light from the epic eater. Silence filled the comm channels. The entire fleet had stopped, watching the space where Day had been. Then Ari's voice came through, rough with emotion. All ships, hold position. Don't let his sacrifice be for nothing. The epic eater was changing. Hannah could see it on her instruments. The energy patterns were shifting. The entity was processing what it had just experienced. A being who knew he would die, who flew into certain destruction anyway, who looked at eternity and chose one moment of defiance. Why? The word appeared in Hannah's mind. Not in English or Korean. In pure concept. The epic eater was asking a question. Why would they fight when they knew they couldn't win? Hannah grabbed the comm. Because that's what we do. We know the universe is dying. We know entropy will win eventually. We know the stars will go cold and everything will end. But we don't care. We're going to fight it anyway. We're going to live and love and create and dream. Right up until the last moment. More concepts flooded her mind. Confusion, curiosity, something that might have been respect. The epic eater was learning something new. Every species it had encountered before understood cosmic truth and let it break them. But these humans understood the same truth, and it made them stronger. They knew they were temporary and decided that made their time more precious. They knew they would die and chose to make their lives matter anyway. It was irrational, illogical, completely absurd. And the epic eater, for the first time in billions of years, didn't know what to do with that. The fleet waited, broadcasting their chaos into the void. Hannah's hands were shaking. Day was gone. But maybe, just maybe, he had given them a chance. The metallic taste was fading. The pressure on our mind was easing. The epic eater was pulling back, withdrawing into itself. Is it working? Tay whispered. Hannah didn't know. But she knew one thing. Humanity had shown the universe something it had never seen before. And sometimes, That was enough. The ships held their position, waiting to see if they would live through the next moment. Waiting to see if being ridiculous and stubborn and completely human could save them all. The Epic Eater stopped moving. The vast structure hung in space, no longer growing, no longer consuming, just existing. Hannah held her breath, watching the readings on her screen. The energy patterns were stabilizing. The metallic taste in the air was fading. What's happening? Bor asked. I don't know, Hannah whispered. I think it's thinking. More concepts flooded into her mind. But they were different now. Not threatening. Curious. The Epic Eater was examining them, trying to understand these strange creatures that refused to behave the way they should. Images came next. Not visions of endings this time. Memories. The Epic Eater was showing them what it had seen. Civilizations rising and falling across billions of years. Species that had reached the heights of technology and wisdom. They had mastered physics, understood the fundamental nature of reality, achieved what they thought was perfection. And then they had stopped. Hannah saw it clearly now. Every species the Epic Eater had consumed had made the same choice. They had looked at the universe, understood its rules, and decided there was nothing left to strive for. They had optimized everything, solved every problem, reached the end of growth. The Epic Eater hadn't destroyed them. They had destroyed themselves through stagnation. The entity was just cleaning up what was already dead. But humans were different. More images came. The Epic Eater showed her Earth, a small blue planet, where creatures had climbed down from trees and learned to walk upright. They should have died 1,000 times. Ice ages should have killed them. Predators should have eaten them. Disease should have wiped them out, but they hadn't died. They had adapted, changed, evolved, not just biologically, but culturally. They made tools, created art, told stories. Every time they faced extinction, they invented something new. The Epic Eater showed her humanity's march through history, crossing oceans in wooden boats that should have sunk, going to the moon with computers that had less power than a modern calculator, splitting the atom, mapping the genome, reaching for the stars. And through it all, one constant thread. Humans knew they would fail, knew most of their attempts would end in disaster. Did it anyway. It understands now, Tay said, his voice full of wonder. It sees what makes us different. The Epic Eater sent another concept. Not words, but a feeling. Recognition. These small, short-lived creatures had something the elder races had lost. They were perfectly imperfect. Broken, but always trying to fix themselves. Mortal, but dreaming of immortality. They were chaos in a universe trying to wind down to stillness. And chaos was the only thing that could fight entropy. A new image appeared in Hannah's mind. The Epic Eater was offering something. Knowledge. Technology. The secrets of species that had existed for billions of years. It could show humanity how to achieve perfection. How to solve every problem. How to reach the ultimate end of growth. It was offering them what it had offered every other species. The chance to complete their journey. Hannah felt the temptation. Imagine knowing everything. Having all the answers. Never making another mistake. It was beautiful, seductive, and it was death. No, she said out loud. The Epic Eater's confusion returned. Why would they refuse? Didn't they want to be perfect? Commander Ari's voice came over the comm, broadcasting to the entire fleet and to the entity itself. You're offering us the end of the journey. But that's not what we want. The journey is the point. The mistakes and failures and stupid decisions. That's what makes us alive. Other voices joined in. Ship after ship, crew after crew, all saying the same thing in different ways. They didn't want perfection. They wanted the struggle, the challenge, the chance to fail and try again. One captain, An older woman from a mining ship put it simply. We're good figuring it out ourselves. Mistakes included. The Epic Eater processed this, analyzed it. These creatures were rejecting the greatest gift it could offer. They were choosing ignorance over knowledge, choosing difficulty over ease, choosing chaos over order. It was the most irrational thing the entity had ever encountered. And slowly, something changed in the vast intelligence. Not acceptance, exactly, but something like understanding. These humans were doing what no other species had done. They were choosing to remain imperfect, choosing to keep growing, keep changing, keep making mistakes. They were choosing life over completion. The Epic Eater began to withdraw. The structure started to collapse inward, folding back on itself in dimensions that hurt to watch. The metallic taste faded completely. The pressure on minds eased. One final concept came through. Not an image or a feeling. A message carved into the quantum foam of space itself. Simple enough that any species could read it. Complex enough that only those willing to try would understand. You are chaos in the void. Maintain it. Then the Epic Eater was gone. Not destroyed. Just elsewhere. Sleeping again, perhaps. Or moving on to find other civilizations, other species that needed to be tested. The fleet floated in silence. Hannah realized she was crying. They had survived. Somehow, against all logic and reason, humanity had survived. Reports started coming in from across the affected systems. On planets where mountains had been groaning and moving, everything was still again. The metallic taste in the air was gone. The energy readings were returning to normal. The elder species were emerging from there, panic, confused, ashamed. They had fled while the humans stayed and fought. They had given up while these young, foolish creatures had defied the impossible. Admiral Veskith contacted the fleet personally. His face appeared on every screen, and Hannah could see the change in him. The fear was gone, replaced by something that might have been respect. Humanity, he said slowly. We owe you an apology. And our thanks. You have done what we thought was impossible. We just did what we always do, Ari said from the Defiant. We were too stubborn to quit. Yes, Veskith said. We see that now. We also see that we have much to learn from you. The Council requests your formal presence. Not as junior members, but as equals. Hannah felt a surge of emotion. Equals. After centuries of being treated as the young, inexperienced species, humanity was being recognized, but the victory felt hollow. Day was gone. The Prometheus dawn was gone. All those crew members who had believed in him, who had followed him into the heart of danger. Captain Daishin gave his life for this, Hannah said, making sure her words were broadcast. We need to remember that. He and his crew. They're the real heroes. Agreed, said Veskith. We will honor them. Their names will be recorded in the Council's archive. A permanent memorial to those who showed us what courage truly means. Over the following days, the fleet began to disperse. Ships returned to their colonies and stations. But they were different now. They had stared at the end of everything and chosen to laugh in its face. That kind of thing changed you. Hannah stayed to examine the space where the Epic Eater had been. With Bora and Tay's help, she collected data from the area. And she found something interesting. Fragmentary information left in the structure's wake. Hints about other things sleeping in the dark between stars. There are more of them, Bora said, reading the data. Not the Epic Eater, but other entities. Other tests. Great, Tay said without enthusiasm. More ancient cosmic horrors to deal with. Hannah smiled despite herself. At least we know how to handle them now. Be chaotic. Be stubborn. Be human. 1 year later, Hannah stood before the Galactic Council with Tay and Bora beside her. They were presenting humanity's petition to join as full members. The chamber was full of species from across the galaxy, all watching with new eyes. The humans weren't the young, reckless children anymore. They were the species that had faced the Epic Eater and won. They were the chaos in the void. "Your petition is accepted," Meskith announced. "Welcome to the council as equals." The chamber erupted in what passed for applause among 43 different species. Hannah bowed, accepting the honor. But her mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about Day's last words. The universe might be dying, but we're not dead yet. It had become humanity's unofficial motto. You could see it on ships, on stations, on colony worlds. A reminder that being temporary didn't make you weak. It made you desperate to matter. Desperate to leave a mark before the end came. As the ceremony concluded, Hannah looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, ancient things were stirring. She could feel it. Mountains were groaning on distant worlds. The air tasted like rust and endings, but humanity was ready now. They had learned the most important lesson. When the impossible comes for you, when cosmic entities offer you death or transcendence, there's a third option. You look them in the eye and say, "No thanks. We're good." You choose to remain imperfect. You choose to keep struggling. You choose chaos over order, growth over completion, life over peace. You choose to be human. And sometimes against all the rules of the universe. That's enough. Hannah smiled as she watched the ships outside the station. They moved in organized chaos, each one going its own way, but somehow working together. That was humanity in a nutshell. Messy, contradictory, impossible to predict. Exactly the way they should be. In the dark between stars, ancient things watched and waited. And for the first time in billions of years, they were uncertain. Because humanity had changed the rules. They had shown the universe that imperfection could be strength, that mortality could be power, that being young and stupid